Breaking right now, let's listen in for a moment to the White House press briefing that has just begun moments ago.
For drugs like Farxiga. And finally, before I turn it over the past few months, you have heard scores of current and former national security officials, veterans, and hundreds of military spouses and families sound the alarm on Senator Tommy Tuberville's dangerous blockade on many and nearly 380 military appointments. Yesterday, Republican senators joined that call, and I will lay out a few quotes from some of them. Senator Republican leader Mitch McConnell said those holds are a bad idea. Republican Senator Joni Ernst said that Tuberville was using nominees as political pawns, and I do not respect men who do not honor their word. Republican Senator Dan Sullivan said that Tuberville's blockade is 100% wrong, will be remembered as a national security suicide mission, and a downgrade of our readiness. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham said Senator Tuberville is doing great damage to our military. Let me say that again. Senator Tuberville is doing great damage to our military. Republican Senator Todd Young said Tuberville's holds just doesn't make sense to me. And Republican Senator Mitt Romney said, we recognize that there is a...
Well, there you have it, folks. Interesting use of timing as the first beginning moments of the briefing. They're focusing on Senator Tuberville, where we are focusing on some breaking news in the Israel war, as Secretary of State Antony Blinken this very minute is heading to Israel for what will be critical conversations and may really impact the next few days and possible escalation of this war. Let's bring in now Lisa Daftari, a foreign policy expert, editor-in-chief of the Foreign Desk, who specializes in Middle East policies and, of course, also counterterrorism. And also with her today, we are pleased to have human rights attorney, founder of End Jew Hatred Movement, CEO of the Lawfare Project, author Brooke Goldstein. Welcome in to you both, ladies. You know, we just learned moments ago that the Wagner Group may be giving Hezbollah, the Iranian proxy to the north, air missile defense systems. I wish they were talking about that at the White House today, but let's do that. Obviously, there's a very big concern about escalation, which Blinken himself said he's going over to Israel to talk about pausing for humanitarian aid to get in. Tell us about the message here you think that it may be sending to the enemies. Lisa, first to you.
You know, it's crazy how much the White House is trying to distance itself from connecting the dots on all of this, and then obviously not trying to not get involved in the war, and that therefore trying to de-escalate as much as possible. But Iran's regime has another plan for us. They are trying to, of course, get the United States involved, hitting our proxies in the region, and the United States has its fingerprints all over this. When we look at Iran's regime giving weapons to Russia, Russia now wanting to give weapons to Hezbollah, Iran's regime funding Hezbollah, which is shooting missiles into Israel in the north as we speak, and it's supporting Hamas in the south, as we know from Gaza. It's impossible to extract ourselves from this narrative. And by playing both sides, really, I think that's the biggest damage here. When the United States takes up this position that Israel has the right to defend themselves, but then talks about pauses or let's use restraint or X, Y, and Z. If we say that Israel has to defend itself, we'll let them define what that means.
Lisa, thank you for that. And Brooke, as we talk about your work as a human rights attorney, of course, there are a lot of folks trapped in Gaza right now. Some have been able to cross into Egypt and American families, but a small number here. As Blinken goes over to talk about aid into Gaza, I mean, some say it won't even reach any of these people, that it will just be taken by Hamas, that they have all this fuel and they're continuing to shoot rockets over into Israel at this very moment.
You are absolutely correct. For all of the talk of wanting to de-escalate this conflict, the United States is making some serious strategic mistakes. Number one, under the guise of humanitarian aid, we are sending over 100 trucks a day into Gaza. Now, what are the trucks smuggling? Fuel. It's the fuel in the tanks of the trucks that are being taken out by Hamas, and they're being used to pump oxygen into their tunnels, and they're being used to fuel their tanks. Number two, we are emboldening Iran, and we are also emboldening Qatar, which are both funding Hamas and Hezbollah. We know we gave $6 billion to Iran. And the third, I think, most important is the continued talk about how after this conflict is over, the Palestinian Authority should take over Gaza. The Palestinian Authority and Hamas share the same theological motivation, and that's Islamist jihad. The PA is an offshoot of the PLO, which was a designated terrorist group, and they would just do the same thing that Hamas is doing now.
I don't think any Israeli would ever be able to sleep well in that situation. And as we saw multiple instances where they have had these opportunities, and Lisa, you tweeted about that most recently in 2008. So clearly a lot at stake here and a lot to come in the next 24 hours. I really appreciate you both joining us today and jumping in on all that breaking news. Lisa Daftari, Brooke Goldstein. We'll see you back here soon for sure as things continue to develop in the war. Very important, critical hours ahead. Thank you both. And thank you so much for joining us today here on Newsline. Again, the press briefing is underway right now. John Kirby at the podium, and Secretary of State Antony Blinken is on his way to Israel for some critical meetings. Stay with Newsmax for the latest.